What's up, my loves and fellow creatives? I tried to take a little hiatus, but I don't know if that's ever gonna happen anytime soon. So I'm back, like I never left, and I'm doing a couple of design proofs. Michael Jackson's birthday theme shirt and a remembrance shirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started until hopefully our client will be able to make it on this session. Otherwise, I'll just screenshot it and send them to it. I'll send it to him. All right, so for this one, the requestees, and let me make sure I'm looking at this email. Just a moment. Here we go. So this is going to be an all-over design kid shirt, and I'm designing it on this template, and then of course we can scale it to the kid size. And the theme is going to be black, white, and red. And it's supposed to say happy birthday, Chucky, but I'm going to go with the who's bad kind of theme. That way you can say like who's 8 or who's 5 or who's 3 or, try to make it themey, you know me. And then of course we'll have an alternate version that'll say happy birthday as well. And then we'll see which one the client picks. What's up, E? Finding her way. Hey, love. Chrissy Pooh, what's good? And Tania or Tanya? I think it's Tania. Hey, love. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with the design. I started with my clipping mask just so that I can see if I need to create. This is a 13 by 19, but this is definitely an all over design. So I'm going to disable my mask, see what I have going on. And then I'm going to use this template. Now this template is online. It is the oil painting sketch color splash template. So I'm going to use that to do like an effect to the photo so that it's not really recognizable as the original photo. And that's something that I do if I'm going to make a template with the photo. I choose to basically abstract it quite a bit so that it looks artistic. So all I did was drag in my PNG from my folder right onto this artboard, double clicked on the smart object here, and I'm going to create a layer mask because y'all know I don't do those hard lines at the bottom, and we're going to keep it simple, and instead of doing the paintbrush, I'll do the gradient tool, and I'm going to start from the inside meat, shift, and come up. Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't check what colors I had selected. So what I need to happen is my default colors, I need black in the foreground, and for my gradient selection, I need foreground color to transparent. And that's one of your default swatches. I had done a gradient earlier, so that's why that one was there. I'm trying to see how much of this I want to take off. I think that's good there. So once I close out, I'm going to say, yes, I want to save that. Let's see how it updates on this template. And with the template, you do have to modify the smart filters based on the image that you put in. So we're going to play with this a little bit. First, I'm going to take off each layer. So I'll take off the sketch layer, take off the black and white layer, and my HD layer is the one that I think I have the most fun with because it makes it look a little bit painted. So that's my favorite. And then I usually will add the sketch. And you can do it as an overlay, or you can see what the sketch looks like by itself just by going to normal. So I'm going to stay on normal for a little while until I see how I want this to look. And if I double click on the word filter gallery, it takes me back to my filter that I have selected, which at this point in time is, which one is it? Graphic pen. So there are some options that I have here. The stroke length, I can change the light and dark balance. And then I can see how that affects my image. And then I can also play with the blend mode. So before, I might have had it on multiply or something to that effect. But you just play with it and see which one you want to go with. Because I want to see a little bit of my sketch, but I don't want it to be the main thing. So I want it sketchy. I'm going to take and bring my opacity for this layer down a little bit so I can see how that sketchiness is affecting it. Let's zoom in a little bit. You see my little sketchy lines in there? And there are also there's a Gaussian blur on there. If I turn that off, we'll see more of the sketchiness. So I'm going to turn off the Gaussian blur for this one because I want to see more sketchiness. And the camera raw filter usually messes with the colors a little bit. I think I can leave that one on. And of course, this is the one that had our sketch lines. So I'm thinking the opacity for this one is set at 86%. And I'm going to double click on the words filter gallery. It's different from double clicking on the arrows to the right of it. I think I'm going to make my stroke length longer to make it more dramatic. And usually you can just watch it update. And then let's see how the black and white plays in. So the black and white is kind of doing a little bit where it's making my skin tones yellow. And it does that because it's with this, I think it's the camera raw filter, making it hyper pigmented. And the Gaussian blur also adds a little bit of effect there. And I can double click on my filter gallery. And this one is my glowing edges. You can play with your edge width, the brightness, and the smoothness to see how that affects your image too. And that's what's giving me those kind of cool pop art type of edges there. So I definitely want to keep that. Okay, so I'm liking this kind of look here. I could play with like the yellows and the reds, but I want to go ahead and get it into my art so I can see how it's going to affect the look of everything. But it looks kind of like I used a photo, but I didn't use the actual photo. And I do this a lot of times too, because if you don't want to, get in trouble for using photos that are not yours, one thing you can do is do an artistic representation of it. And we changed it quite a bit just by throwing some filters on it. So this is why I use that template, because those filters are already done. And now I can close out of this without saving. That way I didn't have to try to figure out those filter settings all over again. And because we're doing all over, I do need to put my guides on so I can see what's going to be potentially cut off. And excuse me, when we do renderings like this, the smart filters are extremely data intensive because they change when you make changes. So what I'm going to do is figure out what I want to do with this design, and then I'm going to go ahead and rasterize it so that it is no longer a huge burden to my file here. So I'm going to go ahead and group those, Control G, and I'll turn this on for you all too. And there we go. Now every time I move this or do anything to it, it's going to think and update those smart filters. So let me go ahead and do what I want to do as far as the coloring. I'm going to do a layer, new adjustment layer, go with hue saturation. And I'm kind of ignoring the background colors here. I just want this to apply to this folder. So we will create a clipping mask so it only applies to that folder. And I'm trying to actually get some kind of pop color. So I want a little red popping out. I want a skin tone popping out, but I don't want a skin tone to be like completely yellow. So I'm just kind of playing with it a little bit, and I think that's about where I want it right there. You can even make it black and white. So that's something that's going to be easy to do, but we'll do that last if we want to make it black and white. But I like the pops of red in there, so I'm going to keep that as is. I'm going to go ahead and right click and merge that group, which you have to be sure that you're done with what you're doing because that is it. It is merged. And then I can take this hue saturation layer and I can merge it down as well. So now that is what it is. And what I'm going to make sure of is that my graphics, especially my faces of my photos and my text, stay inside of this text safe area. And I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do the who's bad yet. So we'll figure that out as we go along. For this one, I'm technically creating a new template. So this one isn't a 10-minute tease. This was a original from the ground up. So you get to see a little more in depth. Let's go ahead and bring in our photos, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to drag the photos above the text so I can clearly see what I have going on here. And then I might do a little color correcting. And I use remove BG to remove the background there. So let's do Control T. I'm going to transform and rotate this a little bit. And for this design, because I have 3 photos, I'm not worried about getting getting the legs and stuff in there because it's too many photos and the images will end up looking really small if you try to put too many full body photos in one design. So I like this one, kind of looks like he's looking off. So maybe that one will be our abstract, one in the back. And I'm debating whether this one should be the main image. And then we'll do the hoodie photos in the background. I think that's what we're going to do. And this foreground image, I will let his feet stay in there because we have a full cutout, and it should be able to work. And let's put Michael Jackson above. And I want to make it look like we're saying who's bad. or whose, whatever age, that Michael Jackson's kind of like acknowledging who's bad. A little bit bigger. And for Michael, it's Control T. Oh, I forgot I had all this extra space outside, so I'm going to go ahead and just take these active pixels, do Control C and then Control V, and turn this into a smart object so I can clean it up if I need to. Yeah, I had a feeling there was some stuff around there, so let me go ahead and make sure we clean that up. Control D to deselect. And we need to be on contiguous. And this is something I probably should have done before I merged it, which is to kind of clean up this outside. Here we go. So I control click on the foreground image, and let's do a selected mask. Say OK, and that should clean up all those edges. So I make sure I'm completely bare outside of here because black conceals and the white reveals. So I can save that. And now I have a clean background. Even though it may have looked clean, it might have had little spots on top of the image. So let's change a little bit of that orientation. Now take the Who's Bad text and let's put it up top. So we can say Who's B-Day. I think that would be cute. Then we'll also do a version for the age. So let's click on that. Let's duplicate that layer. And instead of saying B-Day, we'll say maybe 6. I don't know if this is age, but I'm sure we figure it out. And let's see. I'm going to say happy birthday checking. So we'll have that option in there too. Let's go ahead for Who's. I'm going to take that same font, Alt, bring it down so it's the same text. Double click on the T and I can change out the text there. Alright, so I need this text to stand out. So let's do some effects to it. I'm going to go ahead and group all of the text so I can do the effects to them all together. Let's do a stroke, of course, and let's pick red. Well, the who's bad is usually color overlay is the red, and then we can do a stroke in black, and let's do another stroke. Let's add one and do this stroke in white, and let's make it a little bit bigger than the black stroke. Let's do a drop shadow, kind of make that pop a little bit. And let's back up to see how that looks. That works as is, but I'm going to be a little bit harder on myself. I'm going to see if I want to apply the layer effect to each of the text boxes instead of the whole group. But before I do that, let's see if I want to add a little bevel and emboss in there to make it pop a little bit more. If you can see, it's adding like a little shadow there. And it's on inner bevel, but I can also change it to emboss to make it look like it's popping out. Got pillow emboss that kind of goes out and in. Let me zoom in for y'all a little bit. That's stroke emboss, and then you have outer bevel. I think I'm gonna go with the inner bevel, and then I'll bring down the opacity just a little bit. And we can do a hard chisel, which gives it these hard lines, or we can do smooth or a soft chisel. I'm gonna go with the hard chisel. We can increase the size there if you see, and it makes it look like it's almost like a sign, like a lighted sign that would be at a store. And of course, if you do, purchase the template, you can take these effects down, you can edit them, whatever your heart desires, you will be able to make that happen. All right, now I'm bringing down the black or the shadow mode a little bit in opacity because it will completely change that color red if I let it get too strong. See how it makes it really black? So I do want a little bit of shadow, but I also want to maintain my color. So I think I'm good with that. And what I'm going to do is, now that I've done this to the whole group, I've kind of visualized what I want to do. I'm going to copy this layer style, and then I'm going to clear the layer style. And then that way I can go into each of my pieces of text here, right click and paste the layer style, and it's applied to each of those individually. So I can put 6 on top of who's, and then Chucky on top of 6. And then what we can do for the name is maybe do the alternate colors. So for the color overlay, we have it on red right now. We can choose black, but normally if I'm trying to see the 3D effect, I don't make it completely black. I will make it like a little bit gray so that I have an opportunity to see that bevel and emboss really come through. And as a matter of fact, I probably would increase my bevel and emboss on something like a black because I want that darkness to show up. And I think I will play with the size of the text a little bit. So make sure that I'm clearly seeing what I want to see. And then also for the photos now. And I've got my layout for the basic design. I want to play with my placement and also how I want these photos to appear in my design. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll make the background images transparent or maybe even black and white. But in this case, I think what I'm going to do is just take the two background images. I'm going to group them, and I'm going to change them together. And we're going to do a layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation. And I'm going to take down this blue color in this jacket because it's kind of clashing with our theme. I'll grab that and it says those are blues. If I take the saturation all the way down, they become black. So I'll do that, and then I'm going to grab this red color and let's crank up the red a little bit so it's bringing the saturation up, and then I might need to make it a little bit darker. I'm basically trying to almost match the red in here. Oh, that looks cool with it grayed out. I didn't expect that. Now, if I wanted to do that, I would just do a straight up black and white layer to here. But what happened was I was on the reds and I mistakenly brought the saturation all the way down. But I liked it. And then we can move it left or right a little bit. So let's say it's a little pink, which it kind of is, and I want it to move more towards, you know, an orange or red. I can move this. So essentially, I'm trying to make sure that we have about the same red that's in the shirt design here. And let's say it did too much to skin tone. Now skin tone's too yellow. I can grab my paintbrush on the layer mask here. I'm going to right click, make my brush a little bit bigger, make sure I have a soft brush selected. And I'm painting with black, so black is going to conceal. So it's going to conceal that red adjustment just over the places where I'm painting. So I brought that skin tone back. And let's do the same. And I like the camo look, so I think I'm going to keep the color. But you all let me know. I'm going to go ahead and show you layer, new adjustment layer. Let's do black and white. And I can even bring like the opacity down a little bit. So y'all let me know, do y'all like the black and white or the color change? So message black and white or red to let me know which one you all like better. So while I'm waiting on that, I'll go ahead and start on this image. Same thing here. I'm probably going to change the colors because we've got this maroon color going on. So let's do a layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation, and we will clip it to that photo. And let's select the color just to get an idea of what it is. And these are the magenta. So if I bring magenta all the way down, you see where it's affecting the image. And there's quite a little bit of magenta in the skin tone, which honestly, that's not usually the case. Usually it's the reds. So we'll have to do a little color correction on the skin tone anyway. But now that I'm in the magenta mode, I'm just changing the hue. So I'm going to make it more red. There we go. And then I can go back and recolor the skin, and it looks like his shoes didn't change. So let's see what color is in the shoes. Let's grab the finger there, pick that color in the socks, and it's still saying magenta. So with that being the issue, let me show you what I'm going to do. We'll do a layer mask there, grab the paintbrush, and we have a soft brush selected, and voila, now we don't have that issue. Now all I have to do is make sure I bring the color back to his face. However, it wasn't quite right in the first place. You see his skin looks a little purple. So I'm going to do a little color correction to it before I even do any of this. So let's do layer, new adjustment layer. We're going to do a hue saturation just to correct some of this purple that's in here. And we're going to do it to the entire photo. So I'm just warming the image up a little bit by changing the hue. And as you can see, I'm using the images in the background to kind of match up. And I think that's good there. So I'm going to take this and merge it down. But I have to also rasterize this photo so that I can merge this down. All right. And now I can add my hue saturation back. And what it's trying to manipulate now are the magentas. And I don't have any magenta. So let me just delete this. And we'll do a new layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation. And this time when I select the color of his shirt, it's probably going to be reds instead of magenta. See how it says reds here? So that means that now I'm going to be manipulating my reds. And it can be just a little bit different, but I don't, there we go. That works for me. So now it looks a little more cohesive. I can, for my Michael Jackson here, I want to take some of the black splash paint. So I'm going to go into my background. And I have different colors here. So let me clear layer styles here. So these are all paint brushes that I have just used pretty much as stamps on the art space here. And those brushes are available on the website as well. And I have several videos where I show you how I use the brush tools to create these stamps and these kind of abstract looking backgrounds. Let's clear the layer style here. And let's see. What I want to happen, let me grab this paint splash here. So I'm going to right click, go to that, layer 2, and I'm going to alt drag and bring a copy of that all the way to the front of the image because I want this one to be on top of the Michael Jackson image here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because to me it kind of blends that in a little bit more than just showing that that edge there. So we're going to be a little creative here. And let's do Control T so we can transform it. And now it kind of looks like Michael's popping out of the paint splash himself. And we can rotate. Make that happen there. And I'm happy with that. Let me add the transparency back to the background images. Right now it's at 90% opacity. I'm going to turn it all the way back up. And I see that when I changed that red, it kind of yellowed his skin out a little bit. Let me go to the hue saturation, to the layer mask, and I'm going to paint away the layer mask over his face. I know it's very subtle, but if I can tell, then it's going to bother me. Okay, I feel a little bit better about that now. And the last thing is we'll do a layer, new adjustment layer. We'll do a black and white. Use the previous layer to create a clipping mask. So we'll do the Michael Jackson in black and white. So then that way the focal point of the shirt is really the birthday boy. And if we want to bring back color, all we do is turn that black and white layer off. And I can turn off my guides here just to get an idea of what it looks like overall. And I like it. And now if I want to change these colors, all I would have to do is go to my color overlay. Right now for color 1, I have the red selected. I can change that to pretty much any color and go from there. So that's my main color. That's why I set it up as color number 1, because if you left the black and the gray there, you'd be fine. And then you can also change the background color. Double click here. And you can change that to any desired color. So that's how that sort of works. Right now we have it on white because I think that fits the theme. And I'm going to ask our client if who's B-Day or who's 6 works better. And that's it. So I'm going to save that. Y'all have any suggestions or questions before I move on to the next one? Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I think next one's going to be 13 by 19, so let me save this one. And I'm going to do a quick little screenshot with my snipping tool. And then that way I can message the client and ask them if this is okay. I'm going to ask them if they would prefer the happy birthday. Alright, so we can move on. Let's do next project in line is now this is going to be a remembrance design, but there's going to be no words, just dates, and I think I have a logo here. So I'm going to think out of the box, and I don't want wings or anything. So let's see what template we can use to be a little bit out of the box, because they didn't give me a suggestion of which one. So then this is usually the hard part. I kind of have to create one. And I think what I'm going to use, this is my tried and true. Whenever someone does not know what design they want, I use this color splash one. And hopefully it pulls up at the same time this other Photoshop is open or file is open. But when I tell you I use this template for sports, for birthdays, remembrance, it's very like artistic and abstract, so it doesn't really have a formal purpose. Like it has wings and that sort of thing. You have to use it for a remembrance shirt. So whenever I get a request that they don't want it to look like a typical remembrance shirt, I'll use this template. And there, this is opening. My bad. And while I'm waiting on that, let's go ahead and prep the images that I was sent. Now I do have a logo. I'll see if I need to clean it up or vector it or anything, but I think this one might do just fine. It's a screenshot of a logo, which I'm sure you'll get that plenty of times. I gotta install my new font. I keep forgetting to install my fonts on this new computer. Alright, so this is the logo. I'm use my cropping tool now just to crop out the background to see what it looks like and if it's good enough resolution to roll with, and I think it is. So I'll save that. And in order to save it as a JPEG, I have to flatten it, and then it will save as the original JPEG. Make sure I save it at the largest resolution because it's already a screenshot, so it's already a small file. And then we'll use this file. And I'm going to put it in my client file. And this one is probably a large file, so I may take out some of the information in it. So it's got a smart object. I double click on the smart object. And then I have all of the layers here that, that I could activate as a smart object. But what I'm going to end up doing is bringing in new pictures. So let's see if remove BG is going to help me get the background out. And we just got approval on the who's B-Day, so that's cool. Awesome. Yeah, and if there's any changes, you'll have the template to edit as well. All right, so let's see what we're doing here. We're going to start on the next design. So I'm going to bring in my photo from my folder. I'm going to drag it straight into the Remove BG website. And it did a decent job. I have a little bit of background here I can clean up and cut out. But it did a good did a good job of identifying the texture in the hair and stuff. So I'm happy with that. I just hate when I see something like straight cut and I know there's texture there, so I end up having to add it back. Let's do, oh, this is a beautiful photo. Mom's happy. All right, so we'll do this one, and because the original image wasn't large, I'm not given the option to download the full resolution, so I'll grab this one. And this one does have a larger resolution, so I'll download this one. And those are the two photos required for this particular project. So we'll drag them straight in from our folder, and I'm just dropping them on the artboard here. I'm just making sure I have a little bit of space on the outside so I can fade it off. And my image is cut off, like right by the ear there. And I'm trying to purposely hide that little white spot, or at least detract from it, by placing my graphic where you won't really notice it. But I can't hide Mom's face. That glare is on Mom's face a little bit, so I'm going to do something I don't normally do just on the regular, because this is for one of you all. I'm going to enhance this photo a little bit. So I'm on a new layer. I'm going to paint with my paintbrush. Control Alt, and I'm going to drag the brush a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to pick a color from the image here, because I basically need to paint over this area. So I'm going to pick one of the mid-tone red right there, and I'm going to paint over this. Now, of course, it looks funny because it's a straight paint, but I'm going to go to my blend mode, and I'm going to go to, let's see, do I want to color? Do I want to multiply, darken? Yeah, I'm going to go with color. So we turn it off and turn it back on, we'll see that it at least added a little bit of color to that area. And then it looks like it's really bright right here, so color isn't going to resolve that because it's technically white. So I'm going to do a new blend mode. Let's grab one of the brown colors here and Control Alt click and bring it down a little bit. And I'm going to paint there, but I'm going to bring the opacity down so I can see what I'm doing a little bit. Bring some of that brown. It is not perfect, but it did give a little bit of that white. A little bit smaller. And I'm doing this with my mouse, so it's extremely hard to draw. And like you would stroke, like paint, with the mouse. So I'm going back with my layer mask, and I have black selected. Zoom in here a little bit and clean a little bit of that up, these edges. Just so I get a nice little fade off. And this is why I typically don't like to do photo restorations, because you end up here for a very long time. And bring that opacity down. I'll clean up the brown outside of this area. In that way, it doesn't look like it completely washed out Mom's face there. There we go. And I can take all of those layers, group them, Control G. I can turn it off and turn it on, see if it makes a difference. I think it makes a difference. I think it's perfect. Especially if this is a remembrance shirt, so usually on my remembrance shirts I do, do a little extra. Now, this image kind of ends a little abruptly around these edges, so let's see if I do a layer mask and grab my paintbrush. I'm going to choose a big big soft brush here. And I'm using black to conceal. And if you really want to know what it looks like, put something on the background layer. And sometimes I'll say, you know, drop a crazy color back there. Just do a paint bucket. And magenta is one of the colors I frequently choose because then I can see where my hard lines are. With that checkerboard, it's very tricky. And if you're not, well, even if you are really paying attention, you won't see that it's still hard edges there. So I'm just using the brush tool here on the layer mask to remove some of those hard edges there. I'll do the same thing to the foreground image. Let's add a layer mask to it. And then we can be a little more liberal here because we have plenty to work with. And then if I want to see what this looks like with the design updates, I can close out of this, hit yes, it'll update the main graphic. And then I have to remember to put the logo in there too, so I'll do that on the design. Y'all hear this computer breathing all hard? Okay, so let me close out of Michael. And then we'll focus on this one. Alright, so we have a logo in the background already. We can go ahead and grab this existing logo, right click, logo, we'll turn that one off. And then we'll drag in our new logo. And then what I may do is, yeah, let's do logo here, and then we can do photo to the left. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to take off the layer that I have here, the front effects. I'm going to take it off right now because I can change this later. I want to make sure my placement is right first. And I don't know if there's any colors required for this one because I see a little teal in this outfit here and the maroon. So I'm just going to design based on those colors unless, let me check and see if there are any colors. And then while I'm waiting to see if there are any colors specific to that, we'll go ahead and go back into our smart object. Take the background photo, Control T. Oh, let me make sure that I link it with my paint layer I just did. So we'll link it so that the additional paint that I did stays right with this while I'm resizing it. So we have a logo that we want to put in here too. So I'm thinking the logo would go best on the left hand side because I have a little bit better layout when I bring the photo over to the right. Let's update it, see how it looks on our template. Beautiful, beautiful. And let's bring the We'll call this the logo. And now we can make it a little bit bigger, a little more substantial. And let's take the whole photo, bring it down, so I get a little more of the words there. I'll go ahead and turn on my white background so I can really see what everything looks like. And then I can find the splash color background. So I have a middle color, is what I'm clicking on right now. So I'll go into that background. And the color overlay is what I want to change right now. And then let's say for our other color, the top color, let's double click on that color overlay. And like I said, I don't have a specific color right now, but I like to use the image to grab inspiration colors. And if I wanted this top color to be a little more, to pop a little more, I can just right click, duplicate that group and say okay. And then the new color, the new layer will amplify the color that is underneath it, and it'll make it look a little more opaque because these are watercolor style brushes. And if I turn it off and turn it back on, you'll see how that did. And then for the logo now, I'm going to bring another alternate version of the logo to the front, all the way to the front. And I'm going to put it on multiply and bring the opacity down. And what I'm doing is I'm just letting the logo be a little more on top. Now I don't mind if it hides foundation just a little bit. And let me make sure I link these two logos too, because when I change one, I want the other to change and move with it. And then what I'll do for the top copy is I can control click on my smart object. I control click, it'll select all my pixels there. And I'm gonna grab my paintbrush, and on this logo, I'm going to do a layer mask. Oops. I'm going to do a layer mask, but I'm going to tell it that I want to do a layer mask. Instead of reveal the selection, I want it to hide the selection. So wherever my image was, now those words aren't going across it. Now if I want to, I can add my front effects back on there, and I can do a few things here. I like the kind of splash, but I don't like it when it's over the face, so I will add a layer mask and grab my paintbrush and paint away the paint splashes over the important parts of the face. That way I still get the little artistic element, but it's not, to me, disrespectful in the way that it's going through anyone's face. So that would be it. And maybe if I knew the colors, oh yeah, there's some dates that I want to put on there. It's no words, just dates. And oh, purple. So I did have color, purple. All right, so let's add the dates first. I'm going to copy and paste them so I don't make any mistake in retyping. That's really important, especially for sensitive designs like this is really important to make sure you get your facts correct. And instead of the dashes, I'm going to do the slashes. And we'll more than likely end up changing the font. I'm going to go ahead and make the text black. Oh, this font may work. I didn't expect it to. Gotcha. Okay, so purple color, the theme is grapes. So let's go, and I'm guessing like the grape Jordans. And right now I'm just looking up grape Jordan, just trying to get some idea while I'm waiting on that feedback. But when I hear grape, I'm thinking of something like that. So I can actually save this image, pull it onto my artboard, and you can't really use it for an exact color reference because I guarantee you monitors are different, people's cameras take the photo different, when they display it on their website is different, but it gives us something to work with. So we're definitely going with a purple theme here. And we'll go, we can leave that up top, it shouldn't matter. It'll just remind me to erase it when we're done. Let's go to the color splashes here. Make this a little bit smaller. As a matter of fact, let me just grab this background here. Of course, it's almost all white. 15 is our tolerance. Deselect. Select inverse, and I'm just going to make a quick little mask for that so that I can see my image without all that white space. Okay, and we're just using this as a color reference. All right, so I'm going to go down to my color splash layers, and I don't know why I put that. There we go. So first color is the top color. Let's double click this one and go to our color overlay, change the color, and we'll select that purple. Now, of course, we put a copy of the top color, so we can go do that one more time. I should have saved the color code for that, but I think that'll be fine. When you do these kind of paint splashes and different gradients and different levels of the color coming through, it's not really an exact thing, but if you're doing a solid color, you're more likely to get caught up trying to match that color. So middle color, what we'll do is we'll still do the purple, but maybe we'll grab a darker version of purple. So then now we're ending up looking like we have a little more of a dynamic design. And then the back color, let's see what we have with that one right now. It's set to white, and let's see if we put it on black, gray. I think I like gray a little bit better. That way it just fills the image out a little bit. Now what I'm thinking is that I'll take the layer style from the top color, paste it as a layer style for the middle color, and then I can see the basketball logo a little bit more. All right, so I can take off my shoe now. And probably pull the dates a little bit bigger. And I'm going to add a white glow to the background of the date so that it pops off of the color a little bit better. So we'll go to our effects, we'll do an outer glow. And spread, size, just so that it adds a little contrast where our letters are. All right, and now we'll go ahead and do a quick screenshot of this one. Make sure I save it. Alrighty. So that is like our 2 designs. Oh, okay, awesome. Oh, that brush, it was already a part of this template, Rona, that the white part. This is the color splash template that's online. You might already have this template. It has like the football players on it, but I was just showing how we can take that football design and make it anything. It could be a birthday design. We can do it as a remembrance. This one, it just has like a real artsy kind of feel to it. So I'm able to use it for quite a lot. Oh, Rochelle, thank you. I'm glad he's gonna love it. So that's awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and save this one out now. And let's see, what time is it? It's 2:24. I have to make sure these packages make it to the post office today for y'all's masks and graduation stoles. So I will probably be back later this evening. I have some designs to catch up on top of doing some of this other crazy stuff I have going on. So I will be back. So make sure that you like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and make sure that it says all, because the way that YouTube has changed it, now the notifications default to personalized or something to that degree. So make sure it says all, then that way when I jump on live, y'all can join me. You can ask questions, maybe even give feedback. And then that way we have a little bit of personal time. And Natasha, I haven't forgotten about you. I've just been booked with not necessarily requests, but actual orders that we have to proof and get done. So I really am. I do have a purpose and wanted to get that done. It's just it's been stacked up. So if you want to do it in its official order, then I have no choice but to get it done. But right now, I've been so stacked up with design orders that I haven't been able to do the things that I want to do just for fun. So if you could, message me, and then I'll send you the link where we can turn that into an official order, and then I can go ahead and put that in the design queue and just knock it out, get it done for you, okay? All right, loves. Well, I'm glad you all joined me today. I'm very blessed to have you all, and if you need anything, make sure that you join the Innate Creatives group and you put those requests in that group so that I can take heed to them if I absolutely can, and also so that we can kind of help one another when it comes to staying on the design path. All right, loves, I will check y'all later on, and thank you so much. Y'all be safe, be blessed, and I love y'all for real. Bye.